Our first speaker is Gary Thompson. Gary Thompson is from Global Capital Incorporation. He is a direct private equity investments. Mr. Thompson specializes in helping business find access to capital. The only one piece of the puzzle that can influence your business's success. He is also the author of 3 books: Impact Marketing and Branding, The Psychology of Money, and 10X Brand Printing and Marketing Blueprint. I present to you Gary Thompson.
Hi, Dr. Elena. How are you?
I am well. Genius
Awesome.
is common. I'll see you on the other side.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Elena. Thanks for that warm introduction. In the beginning, I want to first of all acknowledge the Black Business Network for, the vision behind this institution. The vision, as Dr. Elena would have said, is to provide Black business owners, with critical information that can really help those businesses to leapfrog from a position of strength. To add to that process of educating the community, today I will be talking about the importance of market research and knowing your MVO. By the term MVO, I mean your minimum viable offer. Now, today I'm going to give some background before I get into the topic. We see many young rising stars in business. In starting their business, one of the things that they tend to do, they tend to introduce the entire business ecosystem to their ideal client. By that, what I mean, you may have a business, and that business may be a management consultancy firm, and you're providing 10 different services. But because you're introducing 10 different services, and there's a cost to doing business, it is difficulty to introduce the entire business ecosystem to your ideal clients. So you struggle in this process. And as Dr. Elena would have just pointed out, to effectively introduce your business to the market, it requires human resource, it requires technical resources, and most importantly, it requires capital resources. And based on the fact that many rising stars in business do not have access to capital, they do not have access to all the critical human resources and the technical resources, it is very difficult for them to introduce their entire business ecosystem. So after years of research and studying that phenomenon, we at Global Capital Inc., Pitch Deck 101 LLC out of New York, we have developed a new thesis, a new concept that we call mastering the sales communication process. And I will be talking directly from that project today. The concept that I want us to really focus on today is market research and your MVO, your minimum viable offer. I will go further by giving a definition of the importance of market research, and then I'll give a definition of what is your MVO and why you should know this. Now, in doing business, you need data, you need information. To get information, there's the concept that we call market research. Now, there are different types of market research, but the market research that we see many young rising stars are using is what we call speculative data. You speculate that the market has potential to cash flow. You speculate that this is your ideal client. You speculate that this is their needs and their wants and their expectation. You speculate. One of the things that we advise is that you should take speculation completely out of the equation of doing business. So when you take speculation out of the equation of doing business, you are now left with 2 other types of research. The second is called secondary market research. Now, secondary market research has advantages and disadvantages. Now, one of the advantages of secondary research is that it is low cost. Two, it is published data, so you're able to access that data. So there are two major takeaways here. It is low cost, so that means you don't have to burn your pocket to get critical information, and it is accessible to published platform. But the disadvantage here is that secondary data can also be outdated. And when secondary data is outdated, it could be misleading. So when you're dependent on secondary data that's outdated, it can mislead you. It can cause you to spend money and wastefully, and that now can lead to stress and perhaps sleepless nights. So it's important for you as an entrepreneur, a rising star in business, to understand the importance of research and the right types of research that you should be using. The third and last type of research that I'm going to talk about today is primary market research, and it's important to do this. Primary market research is you literally getting the boots on your feet, and you go into the market and you are building out relationships with your ideal clients, or your MVTM, minimum viable target market. The act of doing primary research means that you are able now to build an interpersonal relationship with potential buyers, potential consumers. And if you truly understand how to leverage market research, by simply applying this process, you're now able to get subscribers. You're now able to even cash flow your business, depending on the type of business that you have, long before a product or a service hit the market. And here is where you really need to understand your MVO. I'll come to that just now. So the first thing that we look at today is the importance of market research in helping you to identify your MVO. So market research, it goes a little deeper than this, because what market research does, it really helps you to make informed business decisions. You see, without market research, you don't know your market size. Without market research, you don't know the potential of your market to cash flow. Without market research, you don't know where to find your ideal client, because you're using speculative data to make business decisions. And that's the last thing that you want them to do. So that's a little bit that we're going to talk about today on market research. I'm going to go a little deeper into this as we go a little further into this program. But now let me give you a definition of your MVO, your minimum viable offer. What exactly is your minimum viable offer? Again, as we said, many rising stars in business, you might even own a salon, but as a technician in this field, you're offering to the public, your value proposition may represent manicure, pedicure, hair weaving, facial, body massage. And that's a range of different subjects that, are skill sets and services that you're offering. And one of the biggest mistakes, as I said earlier, that we see a lot of rising stars in business do, because you're so excited about your desire to add value and fix people's challenges, you want to introduce all of this one time. So understanding your MVO means that instead of introducing 10 different service areas, we talk to you about looking at your minimum viable offer. So you may have 10 services, but in the start of your business, we encourage you to just focus on one. All right, so it might be manicure, or it may be pedicure, it may be facial, it may be body massage. So there are advantages in doing this, and as I go deep into this program today, I will further explain this so you have a clear understanding. So I trust by now you have a clear understanding of the importance of market research, the types of market research that they are, and you now understand what is your minimum viable offer, your MVO. Now, I want to go a little deeper into helping you to understand how to find your MVO, your minimum viable offer. Again, many rising stars in business You simply make a decision that I want to start my business. And you come up with a value proposition, and you think that your value proposition is all about your ego. It's all about your desire to add value and fix problems, however you want to do that. And again, we are seeing that many rising stars in business end up hurting themselves when they use this approach. So one of the things that we talk about is you taking the time to, first of all, research your ideal client. You need to research your ideal client. It's important for you to recognize that not everyone is your ideal client. Not everyone is your consumer. It is absolutely necessary for you to really take the time to understand who is your ideal client. And there's a couple of things that I'm going to point to here that you need to understand as a rising star in business when you want to make impact, when you want to command attention, pique interest, arouse desire, make impact, and convert first-time users into lifetime customer, when you want to leverage your lead and convert leads into client conversion. To understand your ideal client, it's important for you to take the time to understand your ideal client based on demographic data. Yes, demographic data. And there's a list of things for us to go into when we are doing that demographic analysis. You can target people based on age. You can target people based on income. You can target people based on educational status. You can target people based on all of these different things. And you need to know that. With time, I will go deeper into all of this to really unlock the importance of having this information as an entrepreneur. The facts and the research are showing that a lot of rising stars in business, you're in business, but you do not truly understand the buyer data markers of your ideal client. And because you do not understand the buyer data marker of your ideal client, you do not fully understand how to achieve impact. So understanding demographic data is a set of those buyer data markers that you need to learn, apply, and master. The second concept that I want to talk about here as we go into understanding your ideal client is to understand your ideal client based on psychographics, psychographic data. You need this type of information. You're innovating a product or a service. You're leveraging mass media, social media, the metaverse, independent communication channel. Why? Because you want to connect with your ideal client. But you're not going to be able to effectively connect and inspire and motivate desired public response if you do not understand the psychographics of your target market. What do I mean by psychographic? In life, you would see that there are people, they love pets. There are some people, they are cat persons, and some people are dog persons. Some people are sports personalities, and some people, they have different motivators and different drivers. But do you know it? And do you understand how to take this data and leverage this data in connecting and building healthy, productive relationships with the ideal client? So as to bring them to that point where they know you, they like you, they trust you, and they're now investing their hard-earned monies with you. In the absence of knowing all of this, you cannot even begin to build your value proposition because you're guessing. You're using the guesstimate, you're using speculative data in business. And as I said earlier on, we need to get speculation out of the equation of doing business. You need data, you need information, and that's what we're talking about here today. The more information you have about the ideal client, this is what's going to help you to be more strategic in product and service innovation. It's absolutely necessary. The last concept that I'm going to talk about today on the point of research and understanding your ideal client is going to be geographic. What does geography has to do with you connecting with your ideal client? Again, very often, many rising stars in business, you simply want to introduce your MVO, your minimum viable offer, your value proposition to the market, without taking into consideration that geography can influence how the market respond to you. And let me explain what I mean by geographic data and how this can really affect your ability to connect with the ideal client. You see, when we are talking about geographic data, we are talking about your local market, your national market, your regional market, and your international market. You see, your consumers, the ideal consumers, are found in all of these areas. They may be dense in one particular area, or they may be dispersed geographically. But if you don't know this, you are not an educated sales communication professional. You're not an educated entrepreneur. Now, let's take this for example. There's two sides of the coin. One side of the coin that you're using speculation to innovate products and services. You're using speculation to introduce and distribute your products and services in the market. Speculative data. So it's by luck or chance you are likely to connect with the ideal client. So that's one side of the coin. On the other side of the coin, you have the sales communication experts. And what the sales communication professional takes the time to do is to understand geographic data. So they're able to tell you the market size, and they're able to tell you how many persons are living in Manhattan, and how many persons in Manhattan are consumers based on biodata. They're able to tell you how many persons are living in the Philippines, and they're able to tell you the number of persons who are consumers of your product, your MVO, minimum viable offer. And they're also able to tell you exactly where to find them. Why? Because they have information. The average person, the young rising stars in business, you don't have this data. You don't know your market size. You don't know how they are geographically dispersed. You don't know how to position your MVO in front of them because you do not understand geographic data. So having this body of knowledge is vital. So let me do something else now. So we went a little deep into how to develop or find your MVO. Your MVO is not about your ego. Your minimum viable offer is not about your ego. You're able now to take all of this information, demographic data, psychographic data, geographic data. You're now saying to yourself, I have clearly identified my ideal client pain points. I know their pain points. I know their needs and wants and expectations. I know their dreams and hopes and aspirations. I know this because the data clearly indicates that this is so. So based on the fact that you now have data, you now make a decision that you're going to innovate products, you're going to innovate services based on data. And because you're using data to innovate products and services, and you know the ideal client, you know their pain point, you know their ability to pay for the MVO, and you know exactly how to position your value proposition in front of them, you stand a much better, higher chance to be successful with your business. So it's important to have the data. It's important to recognize that before you develop a value offer, before you develop your MVO, your minimum viable offer, it should be based on information. And let me give you a typical example here. In the United States of America, we have in excess of 50% of the population that uses credit cards, and that's over 150 million persons. But out of that number, we have in excess of 50% of the users of debt and credit card instruments that need help in managing their debt portfolio. So again, what the research is saying is that at any one time, we have over 75 million Americans that need help with debt mitigation. That's research. That's a viable market. So once you're able to apply the absolute buyer data to this particular market, it will then tell you if it makes sense to start business here. So the market size, you know it. How to find the market, you need to invest in getting that kind of information. You need to research that they have disposable income to pay you for your services, and then you build your MVO, your minimum viable offer for that market. So research is what you use to then develop your value offer, your MVO, minimum value offer, minimum viable offer. There are some other benefits of using this approach to grow, scale your business, and make impact. And using this approach is what we call smart market entry. And why we call this smart market entry? We call this smart market entry because of the fact that it's easier to innovate and integrate an MVO, your minimum viable offer, as against the entire pie. So another example of your MVO, I want you to see that you've baked a cake. That's the entire business ecosystem that you are developing. But instead of introducing the public to your cake in one go, you take a slice of that cake, which is your MVO, and you introduce it. So you're saying, taste me. See if that makes sense. And after they would have tasted you now command their attention with that taste. You now pique their interest with that taste. You now arouse their desire with your taste. You now move them into action with that taste. You now can convert them into clients and possibly into lifetime clients by simply leveraging this approach, the MVO. It's much easier to do this. Less human resources. It's much easier. So this is a smart approach to introduce your value proposition into the market. A few other things that I want to talk about also in terms of the advantages of market research and your MVO. It reduces the cost it's a cost reduction strategy. All right, it's a cost reduction strategy. And let's talk about this a little bit. Because you're introducing not the entire pie, but a slice of the pie, it is less labor force to do this. You see, to do a full-out launch of the entire business ecosystem, it's going to require a lot of human, a lot of technical, and a lot of capital resources. And as was rightly stated at the beginning of this program, many rising stars in business, you do not have access to capital at the start of your business. And in most cases, you're not even fundable at the start of your business. So you're not able to access debt, credit, equity, creative financing, or even hard money lending if you do not understand the right people that can help you navigate this process. So to reduce your stress level, reduce your headache, reduce the cost of doing business, this approach makes a whole lot of sense because it reduces the cost of labor. And by reducing the demand for labor, this in itself reduces the cost for capital. This approach also helps you to reduce the time in building visibility. It reduces the time in being known and liked and trust. Because if you have 10 products and you're trying to drive visibility for 10 products simultaneously, And you may have to tweak it and adjust it and realign it to the consumer needs, wants, and expectations to ensure that you're making the highest degree of impact. It's going to be much harder managing 10 as against your MVO, the minimum viable offer. So because you're not able to focus on the MVO, the minimum viable offer, and you know that the minimum viable offer based on data is strategically aligned to the MVTM, your minimum viable target market, you're not able to put as much energy and resources into ensuring that the MVO makes the largest impact, larger than life impact on the ideal client. So when you use this approach, you're able to easily convert first-time users, perhaps into lifetime customers. You're now able to better cash flow the business. The more cash flow that is coming into the operation, you're now in a better position of strength to leverage your excess liquidity into growing and expanding your operation, into bringing in a second MVO, into hiring human resources, more human resources, into investing in brand visibility, brand reach, brand impact, optimizing your brand conversion. By using this single approach, you are now able to cash flow the business. And the objective here is to bring you to that point where you can quickly cash flow the operation so you can help that business to grow. Because if your business is not able to build visibility, it means you're not reaching your ideal client. If you're not reaching your ideal client, you're less likely to cash flow the operation. The less likely you are to cash flow your operation means that that business is dying a slow or fast death. So this approach is going to give you some momentum to accelerate how you integrate that MVO into the market and position it to cash flow. This approach again is going to be less capital intensive. Less capital intensive. To introduce the MVO is require less money. Just think about this. You have a salon and you're doing pedicure, manicure, facial and body massage. And you're introducing this brand into the market simultaneously because it comes under your heading. What is likely to happen here? You have to hire advertising copywriters to build content. So the smart thing to do will, if you're doing this, you will have to build advertisement that reflects the benefits of doing pedicure. You would have to do advertisement on the benefits of manicure. You have to do advertisement on the benefit of facials. You have to do advertisement on the benefits of total body massage. So all of these are individual activities that requires an expenditure, but that's not the only expenditure that you have to focus on. Because if you're going to do it the right way, you're not your content producer, your advertising copywriter. They are not just developing a content. They have to research, they have to have information before they actually start the content production. And that too requires cost. But it goes further than that, because after you develop the content, you now have to assess the media effectiveness. You now have to go through media placement. And this also requires a cost, because you may have to use social media, you may have to use mass media, radio, television, newspaper, you may have to use the metaverse or independent communication channels to get the information out. Remember, if you don't have visibility, you're not reaching the ideal client. If you're not reaching the ideal client, you can't convert. If you're not converting, you're not cash flowing. If you're not cash flowing, you're dying a slow death. So to do all of this, requires a hefty cost. So the recommendation, instead of going with doing the ad for the manicure, the pedicure, the facial, the total body massage, you take a piece of that pie, which might be facial massage, or body massage. You take the one and you focus your energy on the one, your MVO. And as you're able to drive visibility, reach, impact, client conversion, build confidence and trust and credibility, fast track your know, like, and trust, cash flow that entire process, you now expand into the other areas of your business activities. So that is just some nuggets I want to drop for you today to really help you to understand how we can scale a business divorced from the hefty cost of doing business. Thanks again, Dr. Elena.
Thank you so much for sharing. Genius is coming, and I'll see you on the other side.
All the best.